of JVH Productions and Recordings. What I'm about to do is I am about to set up a template for Mixbus32 and show you how the easiest way and the best way to set up a template. Now this template is the one that I use all the time before I do when I'm about ready to mix a project for someone. I usually set up all of my templates at 48.1 bit rate. Anything lower than that, like 44.1, I'll convert it to 48.1. If I get something in 96, I'll just leave that the way it is, and I'll convert everything else up to that bit rate when I export the files in. What I'm going to be using is all Harrison Mixbus plugins. And then I will also use two Waves plugins. I love these two plugins from Waves, and it's just I just so used to using them, and I like them very much. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go to the computer, and we're going to start. And I'm going to show you how to create a template for Mixbus.
Okay. Now we are inside Mixbus. Now the best thing to do here is you go to your file. I have a blank screen here. Now I'm going to create a new template. So your best thing for your Windows user is you go to your session file over here, and you click on New. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to name this template. I am going to name this Creating Template 1. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to start out with an empty template. This is the default anyway. This is your default setting for your template. We're going to start out with the empty template. Okay, now what I usually do is I will always set my sample rate of any song that I'm mixing for anyone to 48, unless I receive the files anything higher, then I will leave it at that file. But if I would receive a 44.1 bit sample rate, then I will set all my files up to that. And just make sure that you have your Osio, your drivers are set the way you want. I usually set my sample rate pretty high. That way I don't have any delays or any trouble, anything like that. So then what we're going to do is we're going to start. Okay, now anytime you start a default for Mixbus, it's always going to come up like this. So the first thing that we want to do is I want to go over here to my settings, to my sessions, and I'm going to drop down to my properties. And then what I want to do is I want to go here to my monitoring, and I'm going to click Use Monitor Session in this session. And that's going to bring up this little box over here. And then I'll go ahead and close it. Once you set this up, that monitor, everything for this template will always show up once you restart this template for your new mixing project. Okay, so then what I'm going to do here is I'll go ahead and take these off, all the buses off, and then I'll start with my buses towards the end. I'll usually use about 4 or 5 buses. And so excuse me. And so what I normally do is I usually set up myself 2 delays, 1 vocal reverb, and a reverb for the music, and a reverb for the drums. So what we're going to do now is we're going to right click on number 12, and I'm going to rename this delay 2. And for my delays and reverbs, I really like the from waves to super trap 2 and 6. I'm just so I just really crazy about those. Oh, so what I normally do here is I'll go ahead and put me both of these over here. Okay, let's see, here we go. And I'll usually slide both of them over there, and let's see here we go. Okay. And like I say, I will usually put both of these over there in there, and then I will shut them off. Okay, now the next one I would do is I would create delay 1. Now with this delay is I normally use for vocals as my vocal delay, and I have this one as this is the plugin from the Harrison Mixbus plugin, and I'm going to show you the settings that I use for this vocal delay. This is what I use. Like I said, normally I use this for my vocal delay. And as you can see, the time is set at 160.0, and the dry wet is 39.69. The feedback is 30.2. The LPF is a low pass frequency is 6,000, and the output gain is 0. Now this is a very good delay for vocals that I use. It really has a very good sound for vocals. And then I'll go ahead and shut that off. Now next thing I would set up here is the vocal reverb. Now with the vocal reverb, what I like to use is I like to use waves. All of you may not have waves, but this is something that I really love. I like their vocal reverb. And what I normally use for wave, I will use their plate, and I would start with a vocal plate. Either start with a vocal plate or a vocal plate medium, but normally I would go ahead and start with a vocal plate, and then I will go ahead and shut that off. Okay, then next I have the reverb. The normal reverb is what I use when I'm bringing all of the instruments together so they can blend well together, all together. And this is also Mixbus stock plugin. As you notice, I'm putting all of these below the fader so that they're not going. They're past. I'm putting all of these below the fader. Why, I don't know. I think I just feel I get a better controllability if I placed him there. Now what I'll use for this for the reverb to blend all the instruments together is I'll have this set at 0.3 blend, and the room size at about 0.5. This way it's not giving too much reverb, but it's also giving enough so everything will blend well together. Okay, then normally after that I will place a drum reverb. Now all of these are for if I would have to mix a whole band or something, a whole group. I would use all of that's why I go ahead and set them all up just in case that I would have to use them all. If I would just get something with just music and vocals, then I wouldn't need this drum reverb. But I am going to set this drum reverb up as well. And also to use on this drum reverb, I am also using the R verb from Waves. I love the way this drum plate sounds, and I use it all the time. And I will just go to the plate and use a drum plate, and then I will go ahead and shut that off. Okay, so basically you got your all of your effects all set up and ready to go. Now we're going to work on the master channel. Now you really don't need that many plugins for a master channel. So what I like to use for the first thing I'm going to put in the master channel is I'm going to use this Waves XTLC Lockheed compressor. Now what this is going to do, this is going to help bring everything together while it's being mixed. And I have this set up. I think I already have this set up. I have the ratio at 1.5 and the threshold set between minus 20 and 30 somehow, and I'll leave the gain as it is because you don't want to press too much, just enough to help bring everything together. And I will usually leave that turned on so that it will help me go ahead and get things together. Now also I will use the XTME Mastering EQ, and I will place that right above there. And I have my settings for this already, but some songs are, you have too much treble, not enough treble. So normally what I'm doing is I'm usually adjusting my highs to bring them down, because some songs require really, you really don't need that. But I will definitely turn that off. Okay, then also what I will use with Wave, I also like to use after that is this is to help me. I love this Waves Max Volume, and the reason what it does is I love how it opens up and brings the bottom out and some highs out, and it also helps control any background noises that you may have coming on your master channel from anywhere. And normally once you have everything set up and you have your effects turned on and everything like that, then sometimes there's a lot of static. There's a lot of static in the background that I would like to take it away. Now I have this set. I usually had this set to certain settings, but sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. I don't use it all the time, but sometimes I use it, and sometimes I don't. It's like I say, it's depending on the output levels of everything coming in the master channel. Okay, and another Waves plugin that I will use after that is I will use the SSL bus compressor. This will help bring out your low frequencies up to your it also will help bring the final mix together. And I have a setting on that, and I will also turn that off. And then next I will bring in the max bass. This gives a very good bass, a bottom that I like to use. This is the Waves Max bass that I also like to use. I usually set this setting up at medium, then I'll adjust, how much bass I want there. Then final, I will use the Waves L2 multi maximizer, and I will place this after the fader. Now, what I noticed that if you have the limiter of the Mixbus turned off, it's you don't really need to work two limiters together when I have a limiter, the maximizer. There's no need to use the maximizer, the Waves maximizer with the limiter itself, because I'll have two of them already. And normally I have this set at output ceiling of -3 and the threshold depending on what the song is, and I would bring the threshold up if I needed to. The reason I set my out ceiling at 3.0 is this way. When I send it to my customer, I will let them know that this is not the final mix, but this is what I need for headroom when I move on to mastering. Okay, now I will go ahead and click that off. Now that is your template that you have, and then you also have 7 buses to set up your for your parallel drums and adding your instruments on there. Okay, now the next thing you want to do, once your template is set up here, you want to come over here to session, and then you want to come down to save template, and this is going to save this template that you just created, and which you can use all the time. So I've already got it in creating template 01, and then all you do is just save your template, and then you're ready to go. So I hope this helped you into understanding how to set up a template for Mixbus, and we will talk to you again soon. This is Juan Valdez from JVH Productions and Recording saying see you later.